This is the brand new NEBULA X1, a 4K triple laser projector from Anker that features not one but two world-first technologies. It has a class-leading brightness, a class-leading color accuracy, and a class-leading lens system. And it has a handle to make it portable, so maybe you would take it outdoors for a ridiculously good outdoor cinema system where it can connect to two fully wireless speakers and give you a big audio experience as well. And you can have microphones with it so you can sing your favorite Elvis song when you've had too much to drink. And all of that's just the beginning. I want to get into the meat and bones of this review as quickly as possible and speak to you about picture quality, because I think a projector lives and dies on its picture performance, and I have a lot to say about that. But for full disclosure, Anker did reach out to me and ask me to review the X1 pre-launch. So I've had it here for about a month, and they have seen this video before you to check to make sure I didn't make any mistakes, but they've had absolutely no input into this review or into this video at all. For some basics, the NEBULA X1 is a 4K DLP projector that is using Anker's patented LaserForge 2.0 triple laser light engine that can produce 3,500 ANSI lumens of brightness, making it the brightest projector I have reviewed to date by some margin. And brightness matters. But it's nothing without a quality of lens, and the X1 features a 14 element pure glass lens, making it the first projector I have reviewed that features a fully glass lens. And it's a smart projector running Google TV, so it has native support for Netflix, Disney, Amazon, and a whole host of other apps that you might want to watch. And it's fully loaded with more smart and auto setup features than I have seen from any smart projector to date. And if that wasn't enough, it supports Dolby Vision, and it has been ISF calibrated at the factory with an included chart to show the calibration result. And that was deliberately only the very basics about the X1, and we'll get into more detail about it shortly. But that's because I want to jump into picture quality first, because I think that will set the tone perfectly for this review in terms of what Anker have looked to achieve with the NEBULA X1. To try and help explain the picture quality, I'm going to show you a series of recorded clips of some of the content that I watched for this review, really just to try and give you a greater context as I talk you through my findings. Now, you need to pay attention to the fact that the camera I've used and my skills in using a camera are definitely not perfect, so I was not able to capture everything perfectly as the projector produces it. I've done my very best, but it's definitely not perfect. But you might see some artifacts, you might see some horizontal banding, you might see some moire, you might even see some rainbow effects, but this is a no color wheel projector, so I didn't see any of that with my eyes. All you're seeing there really is the camera settings, and how that relates to the projector. And I have been stress testing the X1 on a 4 meter or 157 inch 16:9 acoustically transparent matte white high quality projector screen in a large Batcave black room. So this is a great environment, but a challenge for any projector to look good. And I want to start by talking about Dolby Vision, because the Dolby Vision content I watched on the X1 all looked pretty spectacular. And that was regardless if the content was streaming from Netflix or playing from a 4K UHD disc. Everything I watched looked excellent, but sometimes truly amazing, with the biggest limiting factor seemingly being the content quality more than what the projector could do, within reason of course. And I think this is because of the two key standout positives for this projector. First is the brightness. Being such a bright projector means the image just looks really solid on the screen, and it can have a lot of punch about it too. And projectors can't do HDR like TV can. It's never going to be the same. But with this kind of brightness, it definitely helps to give the image more of a TV-like pop quality, but just massive in scale. The second standout thing about the X1 are the colours and how they look correct without needing hardly any adjustments. Now, I prefer a richer and more colour saturated projector image than would be classed as accurate, but I could easily saturate the colour more to my taste without certain or specific colours becoming garish and then requiring some extra tweaking within the menu. And I deliberately recorded some clips from an episode of The Squid Game Season 1, streamed through the X1 from Netflix, because I was very impressed by how detailed and sharp the image was. And you can see at times the image just really pops off of the screen, I think thanks to the brightness and the quality of the lens. You definitely don't need any added digital sharpening with this projector. It's cut your finger sharp from edge to edge, at least as best as I could see. And it was the same watching Formula 1 Drive to Survive, where the different scenes have a very different colour palette due to the run and gun nature of a production like this, with the high contrast interview scenes that this show is famous for looking incredible for their contrast, sharpness and detail. Remember, this is on a 4-meter screen, so at that size, the content quality and the compression Netflix uses is far more scrutinized than on a 65-inch TV. And yes, of course, OLED still gives you better black levels and better contrast and color saturation, but the X1 has a very good black level for this type of projector. I watched many of my usual 4K movie discs to see how the X1 fared for Dolby Vision and HDR compared to what I'm used to seeing. And watching all of my favourite test discs, they all looked damn near as good as I've seen them before, just brighter with a more punchy image, so probably better in some ways than I've ever seen them before, from all of the projectors I have reviewed to date. And that was especially true with Mad Max Furiosa, because this is a real torture test of a disc for a projector, because it's always such high contrast with really strong and obscure colours, and the projector has a real challenge to keep its contrast and black levels with so much brightness always on the screen. And the X1 delivered this movie with fantastic amounts of detail and in a vibrant manner, especially with the colours and the fire. The brightness, I think, really helped to give the fire more 3D HDR pop and intensity, and I definitely appreciated that. I also liked the simple but effective set of picture controls for setting up Dolby Vision, and I liked having a separate control for the screen size and screen gain, as that helped a tiny bit in getting the image looking its best. But I also appreciated still having controls for black level, gamma, color saturation, and many other important things, allowing me to dial in the image more to my taste and really for the conditions than just using the 3 picture profiles that I expect to see dark, bright and vivid. And there is also a lot of picture calibration controls built in here for getting an accurate grayscale and color calibration if you wanted to get a professional in to get it perfect for you. There is everything you need here to do that. And that includes a massive set of options for how the dynamic iris behaves. A dynamic iris is a system that will open and close to allow more or less light through. And it's intended to keep as much contrast in the image as possible and to help, blacks be blacker and, brights be brighter. And I can say that the 6-blade dynamic iris in the Nebula X1 is an excellent implementation. And the reason I say that is because I used to own a very expensive Sony with a dynamic iris, and I was actually watching an expensive Sony recently. And in my Sony and in the one I saw recently, with its dynamic iris set to on, when you go from a very dark scene to a very bright scene, which actually happens a lot in movies, you can sometimes see what I call like a micro lag in the dynamic iris system. So the scene seems to ramp up to its full brightness. It's only a very small thing, but I can see it. I find it very obvious and I find it very distracting. So I used to turn that off in my Sony projector, which was frustrating because it was one of the features I'd paid a lot of money for. Whereas with the X1, I just left it on auto, and I would say it's damn near perfect. Maybe at times I saw it ramp up just a tiny little bit, but it was so rare that it didn't bother me or I didn't find it distracting. And the perfect dynamic iris system is one that works in the background. It's there to, give us the best image quality, but we don't know it's in use. And I would say the X1 got very close to that perfect ideal. And HDR on the X1 was truly amazing at times when you engage Anker's NEBULA Master 2.0 image processing that uses a dynamic contrast algorithm to do HDR dynamic tone mapping, grayscale and color adjustment, and decontouring for a smoother image. And these types of systems do get caught out sometimes. They are never 100% perfect. But when I tested it on and off, I kept it on because the contrast you now get in the image looked better to me for 99% of content. An Anker claim, the X1 has a 5,000:1 native contrast that gets extended to a 56,000:1 dynamic contrast with the NEBULA Master 2.0 and dynamic iris working together. Movie content I watch all the time to test HDR, like Lucy and Passengers and The Shallows, and some others, with the exception of The Shallows because it's mastered with such a high brightness. Everything looked absolutely incredible. Again, about as good as I've seen it before, just brighter with more image punch, and that does make a difference. But the biggest shock came to me looking at content on YouTube. Yes, the usual LG HDR videos that everyone's seen a million times, they all look crazy good because they're bright and colourful, and it's always impressive to watch these. And again here, the extra brightness and extra clarity rendered the less obvious backing scenes, I think, with more pop. And there was just more colour pop here than I'm used to seeing. But the biggest shock came when I played some AI videos that have been made to look like 1950s movies. And yes, these were only SDR, and I don't know how much of this I can show you without getting a copyright strike, but all I can say is some of this looked absolutely amazing. And amazing is the only word that even gets close to doing justice to what I saw here. Seeing this kind of image on a 4-meter screen is take your breath away stuff, really, and that is no hyperbole. And lastly, people have asked me to look at sports in my reviews to see how the projector handles that type of content and motion. And I played some football or soccer for you guys in the US from Amazon Prime Video. And I did that because I don't think the feed from Amazon is that great. This is where I found the MEMC or movement compensation option set to medium really helped. Yes, you do see some picture artifacts. I mean, the ball moves around the pitch with a bit too much clarity, but this still showed me the X1 can handle this type of sport pretty well, even when the feed is not perfect. So summing up my thoughts on the picture quality of the X1, I would say it's excellent. Excellent in every regard, especially the brightness, especially the sharpness and clarity of the image edge to edge, and especially the color. And I appreciate the color in my video won't be perfect. It won't be exactly how I saw it with my eyes, but with my eyes, the colors look really realistic, accurate, and then nicely saturated to my taste, and I appreciated that. Yes, of course, I can still nitpick the image here. I can want a better black level still and even more contrast. But that's difficult with projectors, and the projectors that do that normally cost 3 or 4 or more times more than what the X1 does, and they're normally much larger in size as well. We have to factor all of that in. But look, in simple terms, given everything I've seen, which is a lot now of different projectors, did the X1 wow and impress me? 100% yes. Time for a much needed break from all of those crazy bright and colourful clips. Let's talk about the 2 world first technologies. And the NEBULA X1 is the first projector to feature a liquid cooling system, which, when you look at the video of it on the NEBULA website, it seems very similar to an AIO cooler that's used in PC building to cool processors. And that makes a lot of sense to be used here because it has the potential to reduce the fan noise. So I set up a little test to record the fan noise so you can see what you think. I placed the microphone I am speaking into 20 centimeters from the front of the X1, and it sounds like this, playing HDR content at full laser brightness. Now it's 20 centimeters above and it sounds like this. Now it's 20 centimeters from the rear where the heat exhausts, so it should be the loudest here, and it is. So being honest, there was a bit more fan noise than I was expecting to get when I saw the fact that this had liquid cooling on the X1 spec. I thought that might make it silent. It's not. There is some fan noise, but that is also directly correlated to the size of the projector. And the X1 is not the smallest projector I have had here, but it's still very compact for its brightness. And I think the best way to show you its size is next to something we all know the size of. So it's a little bigger than some of the projectors I have seen, but it's still tiny really compared to many other projectors you can buy. The second world first is what Anker are calling an integrated micro gimbal that you can fully control, or it will automatically work to raise and lower your image without you needing to adjust the angle of the projector. I think the intention of the gimbal system is just to make your life easier so that you can put the X1 down flat on some kind of table maybe, and then just use that gimbal system to raise the image up to align with your screen. It saves you the hassle of trying to angle the projector up where you need it. But I think the real benefit comes into play for the portability aspect of the X1, especially when you factor in all of its auto setup features such as auto screen detection, auto focus, auto keystone. All of these I have seen before. But there is one new feature in the X1 called AI Spatial Adaption, which is intended to be a one-button click to set up for you process. And because the image can move up and down, thanks to the internal gimbal system, it adds an extra level of auto setup other projectors cannot do. And this is all possible because of a myriad of sensors that are built into the front of the X1. Now, there is something to be mindful of with all DLP technology projectors. The way they work is they create a fixed size of overall image frame based on the throw ratio of the lens. So that's your maximum size of image. And then all the digital manipulation they do to fix keystone and angles and all these things happens by manipulating the image inside that frame. So maybe shrinking of it, moving it around inside the outer frame. And if there's a lot of manipulation happening, especially a lot of shrinking of the image to fix it, then you may see like a larger grey border around the main picture of the movie or game you're playing. And that is going to happen with every DLP based technology projector. And you can be really clever. You can lose that grey border by oversizing the image, lose it off the size of the screen if you're very clever. But this is something that you definitely will see with the X1 depending on how you use it. But the X1 features an optical zoom system, meaning the lens in the projector will change its throw ratio to reduce the image size down. So some of your image manipulation can be done optically and not digitally. So you don't lose any picture resolution this way, and you don't get the extended grey border issue that I mentioned before. And the X1 is only the second smart projector I've seen to feature an optical lens zoom system. Let's talk about audio and the accessories that make up what Anker are calling the Immersive Bundle, where you can have a full entertainment system and have your gaming, movies and karaoke on in style. And firstly, built into the X1 are two speakers, one each side, and there is a mini subwoofer built in too, and it plays loud and clear with a lot of presence, and it sounds pretty good, but there is only so good a single point speaker can ever be. One or two really, I suppose, products that form part of the Immersive Bundle are two fully wireless speakers. And by fully wireless, I mean fully wireless. They are battery powered and connect to the X1 via low latency. And the speakers are made from a super tough, hard feeling plastic, and they are quite heavy for their size, which I see as a good thing. Each speaker has multiple drivers in it, two on the front, one on the side and one on the top. So each speaker is looking to throw a big spread of sound to make it more immersive. And each of the designated left and right speakers has a claimed 80 watts of total power, so 20 watts per driver, which is a lot considering the battery life, which is claimed to be 10 hours at 35% power, which is a hell of a good battery life. And that seemed accurate to me because I tested it at about 25% power, and that was very loud. And the battery had gone down 12% in 4 hours. So, outstandingly good battery life. And you charge the speakers from a USB-C 5-volt charger, the same as your phone. And you can see the battery life of the speakers and the microphones on the screen when you open the settings menu, which is another cool integrated feature. But far more clever, I think, is that when you engage or turn on the front left and right speakers, the speakers that are built into the X1 automatically become your surround speakers and your subwoofer. So the total system of up to 200 watts kind of gives you a 4.1.2 system depending on how you position everything. So that's really clever and pretty cool. It does all that automatically. But I think the best bit about it is because it's battery powered, or the front speakers are, you don't need any infrastructure for them. You don't need any plug sockets or any cables running anywhere, so you can just set it up wherever you want, and it's easy and it's quick. And the difference in the audio experience, listening to the full system compared to just the X1 with the speakers literally at the time right behind my head, that was still pretty good. But it's like listening to a good kind of single point speaker, like a smart speaker. With the full system, it's more like listening to a good hi-fi system with good stereo speakers, because it's just more immersive. There's more speakers playing sound in better positions, like there's speakers where the sound needs to be. So the difference in the audio and the listening experience, movies, gaming, whatever it is massive. And also included in the Immersive Bundle are 2 Bluetooth again microphones that, I will be honest, feel really nice and really very well built. And they kind of did make me want to sing Elvis in the video just for a bit of a joke, but I thought better of it. And I think my kids would, like this more than me and get quite a bit more out of it than me, because of course I'm a grumpy audiophile and I didn't see the appeal in these quite so much. But love me tender. I'm not even going to go there. One more thing that is included in the bundle is a carry bag to keep everything in, and it's a really good quality bag. It's very thick, it's well padded, it has rubberized corners, and it's quite heavy. So it's a very well made bag. Lastly to speak about is the general aesthetics, build quality and the price of the X1. And I know I've made you wait a long time to tell you its price. In the US, the Nebula X1 costs $2,999 and the Immersive Bundle costs $3,998. But up until mid-June 2025, there is a discount bringing the bundle price down to $3,298, so a $700 saving. In the UK, the X1 is very aggressively priced at £2,199, where you are getting a hell of a lot of projector performance for that price. The Immersive Bundle here costs £2,699, but again, until mid-June, the price is £2,089 for the projector and £2,339 for the bundle. And of course, those prices, and especially the bundle prices, they have nothing to do with this channel. It's nothing related to some kind of discount code. Those are just the prices as I was given them. So it's not a cheap projector. It's not a cheap overall system, but it's not crazy expensive either, considering what you get. And I do think you get a hell of a lot here for your money. One thing that is very important, of course, is power and connections. The X1 is powered from a laptop style of brick with a cable that was just about long enough, so that was good. On the rear of the projector, there are 2 HDMI connections, both HDMI 2.1, I believe, and one that supports EARC. Then visually, I like the red accents that are used here, especially the ring around the lens. That looks pretty cool. I was a little uncertain about the top of the X1 until I powered it on, and then you get that really cool red animation effect and the illuminated touch buttons. So that is actually pretty cool and really very nice. Then the integrated handle is very standout, but I'm glad it fully retracts into the projector as it looks so much nicer like that. But the handle is very handy. I will admit, excuse the pun. And for me, the X1 has a typical Anker projector design in a way. And by that, I feel it's a form follows function design. It's certainly not the prettiest projector I have seen, but it's far from offensive in its design, and it has some nice touches. And speaking of nice touches, the remote control, it's very simple, and I was a little disappointed about that at first, but the buttons illuminate, and that makes all the difference. So I appreciate this has been a very long review, but there has been a huge amount to cover. So there's a very easy conclusion for me. We now have so many very good 4K DLP triple laser projectors around this price that the competition has become fierce. And competition is good for consumers because it forces manufacturers to do more for us. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing here with the X1. But competition can create confusion. I know people go looking for what's the best projector at a price point, and that becomes difficult to define when there are many that are excellent. So I think I can summarize things nicely for you here. If you like the look of the Anker design, and if you appreciate what stands out about it, the brightness, the color accuracy, the lens quality, the gimbal system, the Bluetooth speakers and the Immersive Bundle and all of those extra things, if you value those things, or maybe you just like Anker, you trust Anker as a brand because they've been around a hell of a long time making a lot of different things. If you're happy with that, all of that, and happy with the price, well then the Nebula X1 would be an excellent choice that you're definitely not going to be disappointed with. It's very well put together, very well designed, very well executed product. So I hope you've enjoyed this review. I hope you found it useful and helpful. Appreciate it's been long. If you've enjoyed it, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel because I'm working on more.